Okay, it's 1 o'clock and we have a fairly light attendance from our committee so far, but I think we can begin with some of the housekeeping things, Jim. If that's okay with you, we'll begin with that. Our concept was we would have our review of the proposals again and have some discussion, and then after that, we would have a vote. But I think if we have a sparse crowd, we might have to redo that. However, we could do the tax committee. We're mostly here, and so that might be an option. But we'll just kind of wait and see how this goes. But with that, Jim, will you get us started off? Thank you.
Yeah, but we may have two people joining us online. I don't think they're on yet, but Deb Mathern and Reed, we're both going to try to join virtually. Dave said, I think what we'll do is we'll have these first two presentations, and after that we can get into some discussion. We have some other committee coming in here at 2 o'clock, so we do have a hard stop at 2. So I just want you to be aware of our little bit tighter time constraints today. So what I'll do first is introduce Dan Madler with Beyond Shelter. They have a proposal for the Park East site. So Dan, you want to go ahead and go through your presentation?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, committee members. Like Jim said, Dan Madler, Beyond Shelter CEO. Beyond Shelter is a Fargo-based, leading, mission-driven North Dakota nonprofit developer of affordable housing. We have a 22-year proven track record of developing rental affordable housing. To date, we have put together financing and investment projects totaling approximately $215 million, which supported 40 affordable housing projects across the state of North Dakota, producing over 1,251 homes, affordable homes. With that, of the 40 projects, 16 of those projects have been here in the community of Fargo, which provides 521 affordable housing units here. And currently this year in 2022, we are working to close on the financing of an additional 3 projects that would bring another 130 affordable housing projects or units to the community of Fargo, serving seniors. For our proposal today, we're working with Foss Architecture and Interiors, working closely with Bob Ames and Adam Peterson there. And if our proposal would be selected, this would be our 5th project working together. And we are extremely pleased to be able to submit this proposal. And we believe it would be a high quality and attractive mixed use affordable senior housing development for the area described as the 1 South 2nd Street. You also find that our proposal meets and or exceeds the city's development goals for the property by incorporating a mix of high quality and attractive commercial and affordable senior rental housing. The striking knife edge corner of the residential wing of the proposal building, I think, creates an impressive gateway image for one of the high traffic entrances to the community of Fargo. Just kind of going to walk through some slides here, a little project narrative. Basically, our proposal is creating a downtown living community for affordable senior living in one of Fargo's most visible sites. Senior housing on this site is close to medical services, recreation, dining, banking, and more. And also incorporated into our design is on-site commercial space that would allow integration of service-oriented business and support. The residential wing basically has 5 stories and would allow the residents exceptional southwest or southeast views of the Red River and northwest views of the developing downtown Fargo skyline. We believe it is respectful of the neighboring community being developed, and the commercial development is consistent with the City of Fargo master plan. Together, basically, it would create an impressive gateway image into Fargo. Some project highlights basically would be 51 affordable senior units, 9,800 square feet of commercial space, enclosed parking spaces of 60 spaces, and surface parking of 30. Total square footage for the project is a little over 100,000 square feet. Some architectural renderings to kind of see how the building would place on the site. You can kind of see the commercial area along Main Avenue, with the backside being parking on the first floor, and then the next 4 floors would be the affordable senior units. Also provides the bottom picture provides a bird's eye view looking from the northwest. Here's an aerial view of how it would sit on the site, and you can kind of see the roundabout and the surrounding area and how it would fit into the current activity under construction at this time. Some additional architectural renderings from different views, the northeast corner and the main avenue. And then also basically from the riverside view in the corner, detail looking towards the river. The project also essentially would increase the availability of affordable housing stock in downtown Fargo. It would provide, like I said, 51 units of affordable senior units or senior housing. It would provide downtown Fargo with a greater range of housing types to ensure that downtown remains a diverse and an open neighborhood. By that, I would say balance of housing stock, which is essentially housing for all income levels. The purchase offer of $650,005 does exceed the city's assessed value, I believe, for the 54,000 square foot lot. And our requested incentives would be the Renaissance Zone exemptions, community development block grant funds that the city has, and or some TIF proceeds from the downtown TIF financing district, some community housing development organization or TROTO home funds that the city has, and also we'd be requesting a payment in lieu of taxes. Similar projects that Beyond Shelter and Foss Architecture and Interiors have worked on together would be here in downtown Fargo, the Milton Earl. There's an architectural rendering. This is directly, would be directly west of, let's see here, on 4th Avenue and 7th Street, the Sanctuary. We just opened bids on this project here a few weeks ago and are working towards basically closing financing in early spring, early summer, late spring, and completing construction by the end of 2023. And so this would be a similar project, some additional architectural renderings. Here is two actual photos of existing buildings that we developed in partnership with the Housing Authority of Cass County in West Fargo, the Monterey, and essentially it's located on Cheyenne Street at 9th Avenue West, and from the city's perspective of West Fargo is considered the great gateway to downtown West Fargo. With that, and in closing, I would say that both the Beyond Shelter and Foss team brings regional success and experience to the table. And we are well seasoned and experienced in developing and designing projects that are similar to the project that is proposed. And both Beyond Shelter and Foss are confident that the proposed project would be a long-term asset to the downtown Fargo and overall community of Fargo. It is truly a high quality and attractive mixed use project and would be fitting for one of the high traffic entrances into Fargo. With that, I want to thank you for your time and consideration and can answer any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions? Just real quick, I want to thank Dan for the proposal, and obviously we want to thank Beyond Shelter for all you've done for the city of Fargo, so we appreciate you. The other thing, obviously we're losing the high rise, and so this would obviously be in the vicinity of the high rise, and so from that perspective, this would be, I would say you would get bonus points because you're kind of taking the place of what we're losing a little bit, and so do we have any, go ahead, Jim.
Dan, what do you anticipate the 9,800 square feet of commercial space being designed as? Who would be the tenants or occupants do you think that's going to be?
You know, it's really open. It could be related to clinical or medical and or office. And we could design it whereas it could be either rental and or condo it out for ownership.
And a financing question, we've got a lot of incentives and financial gaps. I mean, if your development were to be chosen, how much of all those line items are contingencies in your project? Meaning,
Sure.
If you get chosen, but you didn't get half of these things, is the deal dead? Or
So essentially, it just takes time to assemble the financing that I would need to get the project of this size and scale completed. We would start our financing application packages this fall, and hopefully have all financing assembled by end of this year. With a finance closing hopefully scheduled for summer of 2023, and then basically move it forward. So our timeline is basically a year off of the additional two proposals that are being proposed.
Prakash.
these are apartment units, correct?
Correct, 51 affordable senior units.
Okay, that means varieties of one bedroom, two bedroom, three, or varieties, or all?
Majority of the units would be one bedrooms and a few two bedroom units.
And the rental rates are similar, or you mentioned something about accommodate all income levels. What does that mean?
Sure. So our rental rates for the one bedroom units would probably range from the $650 to $725 per month. And then for the two bedroom units, probably about $850 a month.
Arlette?
Dan, that doesn't sound like it'd be a replacement for the high rise, is it, or?
No, I believe the high rise had a total of approximately 248 units, and what we're proposing here would be 51.
I guess what I'm asking is, the individuals that are currently living in the high rise, would they qualify or be able to be living in units like this?
They would easily qualify
Okay.
based off of our income limits.
And we
Would
have
they
some,
be able to afford it, is what I'm asking.
Basically, if they had rental assistance, because I believe most of the residents in the high rise probably had income limits of 30% of the area median income or not. And so for a rent of, let's say, $650 for one bedroom, they would probably need a voucher to afford the full $650.
and if we have a couple of members that are joining us online, so if anybody else has any questions online, we can't see you, but if you could go ahead and speak up. Go. If not, anybody else here have any questions? Otherwise, thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you as well. Bye.
Jim?
Next, we'll move on to a proposal from MBA Development. Kevin Bartram is here. This proposal is for the old health department building. That building would be removed and replaced with a housing project. So I'll begin off, Kevin, explain the project to you.
Jim, I might need help to get it up on the screen. Technology is not my forte. I probably went too far already. But I'm Kevin Bartram with MBA Architects, MBA Investments. We proposed a 68-unit market rate apartment building on the health department site, 3rd Avenue and 4th Street. The project that we're proposing has enclosed parking on first floor. Thanks for your help. And 4 levels of apartments in kind of an L shape configuration. There's enclosed parking and also some parking along the alley in the proposal right now. We saw in some of the comments from people that were reviewing the proposals that there was felt to be maybe a little bit of a shortcoming not having it be a mixed-use project, and we've been kind of noodling around on some different ideas. And if we were to modify our plan, we'd be willing to do that. We could provide commercial space on the avenue, on 3rd Avenue facing south, probably about 5,000 to 6,000 square feet of commercial space and 2 or 3 suites, one right on the corner and then another one to the west of the entrance as proposed. To do that, we would add a level of parking below grade, and then the rest of the parking would be on grade. So we'd increase our parking from what's proposed right now is about 72 parking places, 72. We'd go to about 100 parking places and add the commercial to that project. It's kind of interesting. There were 2 proposals on the project. Both offered the exact same dollar amount on the project. That's kind of I guess it's not unheard of, but kind of unusual. So our proposal is the same as the other team, $500,000 for the site. I'll just kind of whip through some renderings as we're talking through the proposal. I'll go fairly quickly because I think it'd be nice to get to the questions. How do you compare the 2 proposals and things like that? So this is a view from American Federal Bank looking at the 3rd Avenue site. With the modified plan, there would be more storefront glass exposure on the first floor, all the way across that facade, and that first floor level would probably be a little bit taller as well. But otherwise, the rest of the building above that would be essentially the same. The number of apartment units would be essentially the same as proposed. One of the things that we were looking at with this site is that there's some adjoining properties to the north side street, a 2-story building. We wanted to be respectful of that building and not overpower it. Part of that is aesthetics, but part of it is also being practical. We can't, even though it's a downtown area and we could build right up next to that building, we would put some snow loads and other structural loads onto that building, which would not be wise. So we're holding that facade or that part of the building back a little bit, partly in respect of the two-story building next door, but partly because of other practical reasons. We're proposing to leave the alley, so there'd be no implications with that. 3rd Avenue diagonal parking, we propose to leave that. The parking on 4th Street, everything unchanged. So there's really no impact to sidewalks and parking or anything along that avenue on the outside of the building. So it would really have very little impact to the rest of the property owners in and around that area. And part of the complication of putting in a basement parking is that we don't want to undermine the foundation of the building next door either, but we believe we have a way to do that, and where the ramp to the basement would be located, it wouldn't impact the adjoining building at all. So just some quick floor plans and a few different renderings. One of the other aspects of our proposal was to incorporate some public art along that area, kind of along the 4th Street area, in anticipation of maybe a performing arts center or something like that where the Civic Center is, and to try to bring a little bit more of the arts community into that area of downtown. I think there's a good start to that, the outdoor plaza outside, the library and some of those things. We'd just like to, I don't know what that would exactly look like, but we would like to engage the arts community to help us kind of find some ways to bring that element into the downtown area a little bit more. We really like the site. Connects to Broadway, awesome connection to Broadway, and awesome connection to the parks and the river. I think this is an appropriate project for this site. We understand that the other proposal is a $38 million proposal. Ours is a $13, and now with the underground parking, probably $15 million proposal. I guess we would hope that the committee would maybe try to find a way to maybe get both projects. If we can find a parking lot site for the other project, which I think is a fabulous project, have nothing but positive for what was submitted for that site. But I would hope that we could find a way to do both. Maybe the old police department building is a possible site. I think there's some private properties that are on the market that could be used for parking that are at least as close, if not closer, to American Federal as this site. So I guess that would be my wish or hope that might be considered. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Kevin? Just like Dan, I want to thank you. You've done a lot for our downtown and a lot for our city. So thank you for all the different. I don't want to get in a list of all the different accolades and things that you've done, but thank you very much for all you've done. And I'm a part of the other group in a small way, but I would say that would be my pick as well too, A+B. And so because I think our Commissioner Preston brought up the point of we don't need more flat parking, we need more developments, and I do think to have both happen eventually would be a good thing. So any questions?
Kevin, I got messed up. How many parking spots did you first propose, and how many are proposing now?
In the first proposal, there was 56 enclosed parking and 14 off the alley, about 70 total, and now we're at about 100, all of which would be enclosed. So this would be completely self-contained. We'd have no need for parking ramp access or anything like that.
And then how many are there on site right now with just surface parking?
I didn't check on that, I guess, with the building there and how much parking
30,
is there.
40, something like that?
Probably about that, yeah.
There's 40 on our site now.
And is there a way, I mean, I do think it's intriguing, could we do both projects in a sense if we kind of find the parking? Jim, you're always trying to find parking. Can't you somehow make it so the American Federal gets what they need and these guys get what they need?
I think it'd be good to have that conversation with American Federal to see if there's another alternative so that both of these could happen. And
Because then we get both. We get this site developed, we get the other site developed, and we're ahead of the curve by 10 years. That'd be great.
we could certainly pursue that with American Federal and the Lloyd companies, see if there's a way to do both.
Any other comments or questions from anybody online? Any other comments or questions?
Just one question. Do people always like those porches outside when it's 40 below? How does that work? Do people just seem to like balconies?
On a day like today, yeah.
Well, no, but it seems like all the apartments are having balconies. Do people just seem to like that when they're in the apartment living?
We have a mixture here. We found that some don't really care one way or another, especially if there's things to do like there is in the downtown area. They're not going to really spend a lot of time on their
They're not
balconies.
going to be grilling like us out.
No. It's just a little break. Yep.
Can I ask you a question about
Sure.
what the ballpark prices would be? Do you have those?
It'd be in line with other apartment units downtown. Probably the one bedrooms would be in that 1,050 to 1,150 range, kind of depending on location and amenities. Two bedrooms would be probably about 1,350 to 1,450, something in that range. And we have just a couple of 3 bedrooms, I think, but it's almost all 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Dave Pepcorn, this is Deb Mathern.
I'm sorry, Deb, go ahead.
This kind of has to do with the project. What is being done with the parking lot at the Fargo Public Schools District Office? Has somebody leased that? Is it available?
I believe the parking lot is for sale along with the building, so I don't think anyone's using it, at the moment.
Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, Jim, will you kind of summarize what our next
Yeah,
step
we
is?
had, we talked about maybe having a public comment period, but we have primarily developers have already spoken in attendance, and so I think it's really time for you to have some discussion on each of the proposals and see if you're ready to make a recommendation. Both Reed and Deb are online virtually, so we do have a quorum of both the Renaissance Zone Authority and the Economic Development Committee. So you have enough people here to take action. And so I don't know if you want to just kind of go through these, site by site, talk about the Park East site first, get people's thoughts and see if there's a consensus on which one.
If
should
it's
be
okay, we'll
selected.
start with the first page, and if it's okay, what we've done with the Fargo Dome, when we have 2 committees mixed together, then we'll vote separately if we get to that point, if that's okay with everyone. So we'll
And
have,
I'll pass this to the mayor. I think everyone else has a copy. These are the criteria that were in the RFP, so those are the things you should consider. I've made a few notes on a few of those, but things like consistent with the downtown plan and good design and quality, that's sort of the things that are more subjective.
so can I ask Jim, so the criteria, is there, we don't go just by the numbers of, or how are we supposed to, is it just our own?
Yeah, I think I don't have it so much, this one's worth 10 points and this one's worth 5. It's really for each of you to look at and decide, okay, given these 8 criteria, which proposal best fits all these criteria.
Well, so on the first page, if you go by the amount invested, the Eagle Ridge has an advantage, but I guess maybe we should go around the table and get comments from people if you want to comment, but I think part of it is, as a city, you have to do what's the best bang for the buck, but I don't know if that's the only thing, because if you just go by the numbers, that it's pretty cut and dried.
Yeah, no, the idea is to look at all the criteria. We wouldn't need a committee if it was strictly the highest bidder. We'd just pick that one, but there's a lot of other factors involved in addition to the price.
Mr. Chairman, if I could-
That's all right.
I do think that there's some value in the Epic proposal in that it at least part of that area has already been developed by them. And I get a sense more that there's this grand kind of plan for the entire area there. So I think there's some value in that. Unfortunately, we don't have that housing study in front of us, but I also think there's a real difference in income level with these 3. The target market is quite different with each one of them. So that's another consideration I don't think is listed here.
I just want to point out that in the riverfront plan, we did, try to target some lower income housing, including one site down by Prairie St. John's. And I've been in discussion with Beyond Shelter already about trying to take some of the TIF revenue from this development and move it down there. As you know, you see with Beyond Shelter, that's going to take a few years to put together. And so I think working on that project on a different site along the river has a lot of merit. And, you know, picking either Eagle Ridge or Epic would assist in getting that done sooner rather than later.
Any other, I wish everybody would, I don't want to have to go around the table and give.
Just on the Epic proposal, wasn't there also a fire issue, exit issue, in the difference of Eagle Ridge and Epic? Was there some concerns by the fire team?
I think those could probably be worked out. If you look at the site plan, there, and what the fire rules are is they have to be able to park a truck within 275 feet. And so if they park on Main Avenue and at the end of the cul-de-sac, there's probably a connection, but they may need to make some modification. I don't think that's a deal killer, but it is more difficult to get, you know, access all around the building with the Eagle Ridge proposal versus the Epic proposal.
Clarification question.
Yes, Prakash.
Are we going to go through page by page and even the presentation that was made a few days ago, we're going to make a recommendation on that also, or?
We can do whatever you want us to do, Prakash, but our concept was that we would do this first page first and decide which of these we would recommend going forward to the city commission, and then they'll vote on it there. But what the concept is, if this is okay with everyone, we would vote on which one of these we would recommend, if that, unless you don't want to, but that's kind of the concept.
Should follow it. In addition to that recommendation, city commission, they would then apply for like Renaissance zone incentives. So this is sort of that initial selection, and it's going to be contingent on a development agreement and the exact incentives. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Well, I left here with the understanding last time that both of our committees will work separately, and we'll have a discussion about it, and then each committee will make the recommendation. That's what I thought was going to happen.
So that is correct. The Renaissance zone, they will still have to go to the Renaissance zone. To give an example for this, they would still have to be approved by the Renaissance zone. Isn't that correct, Jim?
Yes, yeah, for the incentive, yes.
So basically, what this will be, we would recommend whichever one of these we select, that's who we'll recommend, then that would go on to the city commission. However, it would still, the Renaissance zone would still have to be approved. The actual application, that would be a separate process. Is that correct? I want to make sure that we do it correctly, Jim, so.
Yeah, if you'd like to do it that way, that's certainly correct.
I have a request.
Yes.
When we're talking about whatever page, can we bring up the PowerPoint that we looked through? Because I think I know which one it is, but if I see the photos, I know. That way when we talk about them on a site, we could all give our thoughts on pros and cons. Because the photos will jog my memory on what I liked about them in my notes.
Is that possible, Jim, that we could pull up the past presentations?
Or even if it's just one,
Maybe.
one of the drawings. They're all blurring together for me.
That's very good. One more question is, I know one of the presentations from the previous day, authentic one. I know Mayor had a question about that $2 million question there.
Which one did you want to see? Both of them?
I believe Jessica would like to be able to see all three of those, just so we can see in our minds, if you don't mind, on the first page, the Beyond Shelter we just went through, but the Eagle Ridge and the Epic, if you could just pull those up so you can refresh our memory. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yep.
Okay.
Again,
Okay, do you want to switch it over to this?
In the meantime, let's go ahead and, I don't know if there was any comments or questions.
You can see this is generally the Epic one.
I raised a question to the mayor as to, did they accommodate that at all? I remember when you raised a question about the $2 million issue with the city,
Untitled housing, was that what you were referencing, or which one?
authentic housing,
They have not accommodated that yet.
okay?
They keep telling us it's
Yeah,
okay, but
yeah.
I don't know if Jim's got a formal report. I got a letter back from finance proposal that, so there's multiple gaps that they have to go through first. First have to be picked, then need to go to the state, then need to go somewhere else, then need to go to somewhere else. And it seemed like a lot of questions that didn't quite come to fruition. And the other question I had asked is, what's financial obligation to the city? When they proposed it, they had a rate of return of 72%. That was for the renter. That was not for the city. So there's free transit, electric cars, health care, home, child care. I got no proposals to how much money that would cost the city of Fargo. So I think we can work with them with the housing authority. Chris is in the audience on Burrell property, which is a little bit smaller. We could work together to try to build a concept. It wouldn't be 180 apartments. It might be 50, 60, just a much smaller concept, and see if they could make that work. But then we would have to have everybody get together. The other thing with Beyond Shelter, the city of Fargo, is I think we're already engaged in one project with you now, the Kmart site, which we're helping finance and put some money into too. So the city kind of already is helping them meet their needs on that one. So to me, it's this would be a second one we're doing, and we're giving considerable support for the other one right now. So that's where I would be with what Jim was talking about at the bottom here, all the different things we have to do to help that project go. So on the first two, I think they're both comfortable. Epic kind of mixes with this other property. The difficulty I have is they already have two major projects there, and this almost completes it with the third, with a park, with other amenities that go with it. Sometimes that would seem to might be a better, you have probably one housing office that somebody would rent out. You'd have the whole complex trying together. And I don't know, Jim, that's some, in ways, in my mind, that has some benefit. I mean, you have two competing sources, otherwise that's fine, but is there a benefit of being one?
I agree completely. I think Epic's made a good argument for that point of view about that being a master plan, like a 2-block square area almost. And like you just said, I know for a fact, operationally, to have one operator, one management company running a campus as opposed to people butting up would be easier. So it's an interesting discussion. I mean, to back up a little bit here, I mean, there's a lot of subjectivity to all of these, so it's interesting.
So Jim, just talking about that conversation, I do agree that they all would fit together, but is that worth $12 million? $12 million worth of, and I think that's part of our question you have to debate. And it's a good thing because we have lots of interest, but are we required to go with the best financial package or the one that would fit together the best? And I think that's what we should need to talk about. What is your
Correct,
opinion?
and future tax revenue is pretty dramatically different as well, so you're right. And at some point, what do we as a committee or the city commission care about the property management of a site? That's their problem, right? So.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, and I kind of come at everything from a financial standpoint, and because there's hard metrics, and so the original idea around these type of development projects, urban renewal, was for city to acquire property, clear it most times, and then pick the most impactful project from that. So if you just look at the financial metrics here, Eagle Ridge at 35 million, kind of wins out there. The purchase price for the lot, 1.5 million, wins out. They're only asking for Renaissance zone approval, no other incentives. And the tax base will increase by 392,000, which will pour more money back into that whole TIF district to be redistributed. Where it goes off the rails after that is, the downtown plan, the design and quality. I think those sort of wash out, but it's that issue on workforce housing, low to moderate income housing, and and I'm glad you just brought up sort of the completeness of a whole. So. Simple way to do it, just look at the financial aspects of it and roll with that.
Mr. Chairman, if I can. Jim, can you also, I guess I'm strongly on the side of looking at this entire property this whole area as a concept. Can you talk a little bit about the high-rise property and how that might eventually integrate into this?
Yeah, I don't know if you can, no, they don't like this overhead, but if we could switch this to the overhead, I'll just show you the kind of the different ownership of these properties. And I think if we do go with Epic, one of the things they'd like to, we could probably, I don't get is, there's this piece of land here, it's like this little extension on their property. And so you see where the Housing Authority property is, maybe we could try to pick that up too if Epic had the proposal and try to integrate that. But the Housing Authority's plans for 120 housing units on the site. Chris is here from the Housing Authority. I don't know if we want to take time to explain the project, but they're working on 120 units there. They're trying to figure out how to pay for taking that building down. But I believe that would be both more of a family housing and would all be low income, maybe not as deeply subsidized as the current high rise. So.
And while he's coming up, I think the one thing we do have to be careful of is this is public property. And I believe our charge is to maximize and financially that's our main charge. The rest of it, I think, is pretty esoteric, and I'm not sure that design and things like that is the most important thing, because the main thing is this money is going into the general fund from here on out, once the Renaissance Zone expires in 5 years. And so that's the bottom line. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Chris Brungart, Fargo Housing. On that site right now, we are looking at 110 units, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom low-income housing. There's be 100% project-based vouchers. That means anybody who has 0 income all the way up to paying full rent will be at that location. The footprint of the new building is going to be taking up about the entire site. So we're about 77 covered spots and 17 outside. So I'm available for any type of questions you have, but we're looking at putting together our last bids on the abatement of the asbestos and the demolition costs. It totals about a little over $5 million. And I think we're finishing up with HUD with that approval.
Thank you very much. We didn't mean to put you on the spot when you're a guest to just show up and then have to talk. So thank you for doing that.
Chance to take. So.
Mr. Chairman, if I could
Chairman.
ask.
Jim, have we done housing studies to ascertain, do we need condos or do we need apartments? So we get 57 condos with the highest priced project. Do we need condos downtown? Is that part of the issue right now, or do we need apartments and housing stock? I don't know which one is
Yeah,
right now
I
needed.
don't know either. The city hasn't done a market study on that, and I know we're talking about that with the housing study. I know it's we haven't seen as many condos downtown, if that's any judge of how big the need is. We've certainly seen a lot of apartments, and we're seeing those rent ups, but the condos is something we really haven't studied.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Chris. So for 110 units, like what height of a building are you talking?
We're looking at 4 to 5 stories.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a comment as you're walking up. From the Epic side, some of the benefits that I see, I know it isn't from the number standpoint the largest, but I did like the different mix between ownership and rental. As you think about the stability of owner, as those can obviously rotate, but the natural churn that you get from a renter and having different people experience that part of downtown is a huge benefit. Having a master plan of multiple buildings together, it's easier to rally one owner to do a large community-based involvement and engagement when you have one owner doing that, and that they're clearly community involved. So I like that aspect too, because it would benefit more than just the ownership and the residents. It would benefit the community to be a visitorship of the city of Fargo. And then I also think there's a cohesiveness in, even though it might not be, financially giving back to a pool, but how things look, we have one chance to build it. We have one chance to probably make it cohesive, and that might be our best bet, even though it won't be financially a big difference long term.
Go ahead, you can introduce yourself, and this is unusual, but we'll allow this, and I think to be fair, if any of the other developers want to get up and speak, they should be welcome too, so go ahead. And I will say, we have a time limit. I like short meetings, but literally, we have to be out of here. The mayor's got another meeting at 2, so just to keep that in mind. Go ahead.
I'm Brian Kanowski with Epic Companies, Vice President. I just wanted to step up as Chris came up and was talking about that extra finger of land that Jim was talking, that he made reference to, that in our connectivity of our site, we actually do have that path going down behind their building so that those people who are in that housing development that the Fargo Housing Authority is going to do would be able to come over and make use of the the public partnership that we'll have with either the city or the Fargo Parks. And then as far as just as I was standing here, just to speak of the workforce housing, not subsidized, but workforce, in our current building right now, we have studio apartments that we're renting out at $700 a unit. So we do have the ability to help those people that are in need, that are working in the downtown area.
And I will say the Artist Flats, actually, the rent there is about $850 for a single. So actually, when you start, I don't know if you can correct me, Jim, but that's kind of interesting. Are those numbers accurate? Or go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, there's 2 vacancies at Edge Artist Flats for I think $875. They're 2 bedrooms, and
So that's kind of interesting, just from the perspective of low-income housing, just to give you some. Go ahead, John. Do you have something to add?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question for Chris. Where do you have your waiting list? Where's the hole in the market? Do we have, which group has the longest waiting list? And I know it's not a housing study, but it'll maybe help us figure it out.
All our waiting list right now for our voucher programs are closed right now. So we're not accepting any new applicants because there's a large waiting list right now. So it's first come, first serve. We're getting ready to purge that. What I mean by purge is go through and verify that everyone's on the list, is still waiting and actively looking for affordable housing. And there's also a waiting list on all of our other affordable properties also. So there's a large need for affordable housing.
Can I ask you, are all of yours going to be accessible?
There's going to be 20% of the units will be accessible units in the 110, so.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I do think that's the risk. You come here to get questions asked, so thank you for. And I would say, if you had 100% accessible, you would have a lot. You would be able to fill them just with accessible housing, and so I would encourage you to raise that number if you can.
Yeah, I know our new Horizons building is 100% accessible, and that's a waiting list quite long.
Yeah,
John.
not trying to force you into a housing study, but just sort of anecdotally, where are we seeing the biggest need? Is it the very low income? As you say, you've got waiting lists, but you're going to purge them. Is there any way for you to sort of stratify that and say?
Well, we're doing a housing study right now, and Jim, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But the other thing Dan can speak for is the thing we have. Waiting list for low-income senior housing. Every time he opens one up, they're full before they're completed. And so that tells you and I believe that need is going to do nothing but grow. But Jim, you talk about that if you don't mind. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the elderly housing is probably one of the longest waiting lists. Certainly, again, that's what we've seen a lot of projects get developed, and it seems like there's no end to that need right now.
And I guess I'm going to make a little bit of an executive call here, because to me, we have 15 minutes left. And this is, we've got lots of good discussion. And I think trying to get to vote on all these would be rushing it. And I don't think that would be a good thing to do. So I think what we'll do is this will be kind of the end of our informational meetings, and now the next time we meet, it will be as individual group, or 2 different committees, and then we'll vote on them there. If that's, I apologize, but I just think that seems like a little more appropriate. Unless somebody wants to do something different, I'd be happy to, but otherwise, I think we're having good discussion and we don't need to rush through these votes, so. And I do want to say Jessica asked the best question at the Kilburn group when she asked them about which one they recommended. So I don't have an award to give, but I thought that was an excellent question, so thank you for doing that.
Mr. Chair, I know it's difficult to make a decision, but I'm going to try something here just to see where we go with it. Is why don't we see if we have a preference right now, if we do, unless we want to wait for, we're all sitting there trying to figure out what we want to do. But if we said, okay, I like Eagle Ridge, or I like Epic, or I like Beyond Shelter, perhaps you could get an idea, Chair, as where we're headed with this. Because I think we've all thought about it, or does the committee want to wait longer?
If you want, I can have Nicole from the assessor's office move up and just kind of call a roll, and everyone can state which one they prefer, and maybe there's a consensus and maybe there isn't. Nicole, do you want to? And
Is everybody ready for that, or do we still have more discussion? What do you prefer? John?
Well, our job, I guess, is to make recommendation to the city commission, so it's nice to put the pressure right back on the 3 of you.
Well, we're all here.
Yeah.
So literally are getting the whole team.
You know, I think we can express our preference, and that the final action is going to have to be taken at the commission level. So.
maybe we can start with
Jim,
Deb
how do you
Mathern and Reed, who are online.
Okay, and who would vote for Epic?
Maybe
I
why don't
would.
you call the names?
Oh,
Epic.
I'm sorry. Deb Mathern, Chair. Epic, Beyond Shelter, or Eagle? She's online
Had
right
to
now.
drop off.
Okay. Dave Pepcorn, Epic, Beyond Shelter, or Eagle?
Eagle.
Arlette Preston, Epic, Beyond Shelter, or Eagle? Prakash Matthew, Epic, Beyond Shelter, or Eagle? Steve, Epic, Beyond Shelter, or Eagle?
Steve's not here.
Oh.
Go to Reed.
Okay.
Chad.
Reed, Epic, Beyond Shelter, or Eagle?
Must have dropped down.
Okay.
Would you just go down to, Chad's not here. We'll do the last 4.
Mayor Mahoney,
I do Epic.
Epic? Jim? Jim?
Epic.
Jessica?
Epic.
John?
You know, I just can't leave the money on the table, so Eagle.
I knew you'd go for the money.
It's always the money, isn't it?
So I
your
guess on the
background?
Economic Development Committee, we'd have 3 for Epic, 2 for Eagle. On the Renaissance Zone Authority, have 2 for Epic, 1 for Eagle, and then the others aren't, either dropped off the call or were absent, so it's a majority for Epic.
So with that, then that will be the
You- you
recommendation going to the city commission? Is that, or tell me what that means?
I think that would be it, the recommendation, and I don't know if you want to do the school warehouse site, if, to recommend one of the, either one of the Kilbourne proposals or one of the, or the authentic housing, I don't know if you're ready to do that. And I would say the last one, give us some time to work and see if there's a way to do both before we pick one.
Before we take the vote, I would like to at least have an opportunity for a little more discussion on those, if that's okay. Jessica, do you have some comments? Go ahead.
I agree. I think we need more time for a valid decision
Okay.
or recommendation.
Do we have any other comments about that? Jim, go ahead.
No, I agree on no need to rush and continue the discussion. But before we adjourn, I was going to ask, is there, we do have an agenda item to approve the last EDIC meeting minutes. Do you want to do that before we adjourn?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as stated.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have a very alert committee, so that's good. Thank you for that. So it's 1:50, and so did we cover enough ground today, Jim? Are we ready to be done?
I think we'll need to have another meeting on the old school district warehouse site, and then we'll give you an update on whatever we can, see if we can resolve anything with American Federal to try to do both of those projects.
So if it's okay, then from here on out, this will be the end of our meeting together. These will be separate meetings from here on. So thank everybody. This was our first attempt to do this, trying to make it easier on the developers and the committee. So thank you for all being here. And with that, we have 9 minutes to burn before the mayor kicks us out of here. So thank you everybody for coming. We are adjourned.